the history of Earth can be recorded in the rocks. And when you are looking at the rocks, minerals in the rocks, the textures and structures in the rocks, then chemistry of the rocks, chemistry of the minerals in the rocks, what you do, you reveal this history of the rock. Right. From very, very old times to the time that this rock finally emplaced in the Earth's crust.
Hello and welcome to Choicast, a show where you can unfreeze your brain with a cup of hot choy. I'm Shahnaz, your host, and with me is the wonderful co-host Soti Mohammed. In today's episode, we have a very special guest. He is one of the most admired professors that we have here in UCA Horo campus. He is very intelligent, dedicated, passionate, kind and supportive. He is the backbone of the academic department in UCA as he works tirelessly every day to make UCA a better place for the students. I'm sure you might have guessed it right by now that I'm talking about none the other but our very own Professor Mohssen Moazzen.
Professor Mohssen, thank you very much for joining us and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this Choicast, and also thank you for introduction. Actually, I try to do my best, and I hope that I can help our students and university.
Yes, thank you so much, teacher. I just want to make sure that I pronounce your last name correctly because I'm horrible with names. I always forget names. I always mispronounce the names. So I hope I did it correctly, right? Is it Moazzen or Moazzen?
Moazzen, it's Moazzen. It's both my name and family name are Arabic, and my last name is Moazzen.
Yeah.
And actually it comes from my grandfather. My grandfather used to call people for namaz or salat or praying in the mosque. He was doing azan. And Moazzen the meaning is person who calls people for praying.
Oh,
right.
And it's called in Arabic Moazzen, and our family name comes from there.
Right. I think we also have Moazzen. I think it's also in Urdu because it is also in Persian and in Urdu, and of course Urdu has roots, in Persian. I think that's why there's the connection. Professor, as you know that our show is actually, the name of our show, as you have already heard, is Choicast.
Yeah.
And the notion or the idea behind this show is to kind of have meaningful conversation with a cup of hot choy or chai. And that's why we have chai for you today. It's actually the Pakistani chai. And I'm not sure if you are more of a chai person or not.
Yes, I like tea and I drink chai.
All right. Okay. Well, I would love to serve some for you. We wanted to know is it part of the Iranian culture as well?
Yeah, tea is a part of Iranian culture, and Iranian people, they drink lots of tea. Especially the part of the country I'm coming from, which is called Iranian Azerbaijan. The people, they drink lots of tea during the day. Yeah.
And is it usually with the salt or with the sugar?
No, it's just plain black tea.
Without milk?
Without milk. And they use different types of sweets. Sometimes they drink it with date, or sometimes even with sugar.
And is it also popular like tea with milk in Iran in any parts?
No, actually we don't have that much, just in southeastern Iran province of Sistan and Balochistan. They drink milk and tea or tea with milk, but in other parts of Iran they usually drink dark tea. Sometimes it's very dark, strong and dark.
I see. And did you try tea before came to Tajikistan with milk, or you tried it
Yes,
first
actually I like tea with milk a lot. When I was a student abroad, I had many Pakistani friends, and we were drinking tea with milk.
And even in the UK, they have, so the idea of tea in subcontinent, back when subcontinent was the British colony, they actually brought the idea of tea, and they are a big, fan of tea, and I'm pretty sure you have experienced that in the UK as well.
Yes, of course.
All right. Professor, we wanted to talk about from the very beginning, so we wanted to know where you grew up and how was the experience of growing up in your hometown and all of that experience?
As I said, I'm coming from a province in Iran, in north of Iran, which is called Iranian Azerbaijan. My father had a job, he had to travel a lot within the country in Iran. So we left our hometown when I was only 4 years old. And then we went to western Iran, which a part is called Kurdistan. We spent about 1 year there. And then back to home. And after 6 months, again, we went to another city in Iran, which is called Hamadan. And I was there for about 8 years. And then again, because of my father's work, we had to travel to move to another part of the country. So my childhood was in different parts of Iran, with different cultures, different Persian dialect, and it was an opportunity for me to get familiar with all these different cultures and languages, local languages. Now I can talk some Iranian local languages very perfectly, and if I talk those languages, those people from that province, they think that I'm from that province.
So how many languages do you speak to?
Actually, these are different dialects of Persian. One is Kurdish, another one is Persian with Hamadani accent. I can speak it perfectly. And Lori, there is a province in Iran called Loristan, and also I can speak Persian with Lori accent. But my mother language is Azerbaijani Turkish. So at home, we talk here even in Horok with my wife, with my children. We mainly speak Azerbaijani Turkish.
Okay, interesting. And what was your father's job?
He was a military officer.
Oh, that's why you moved around.
During the Shah era and after that.
I see.
So was that, so you mentioned about that, you know, because of your father's job, you traveled a lot. Did that kind of affect you or influence you to, because you have traveled a lot, you have been in a lot of countries and you have, you know, moved around for your education and for your professional life. Did that growing up experience kind of impacted you to make your choices about your education and career?
Yes, I think so. Traveling after, you know, finishing, say for example, bachelor degree or when you are young is different from traveling when you are a kid.
Right.
4, 5, 6 years old kid, and then it is quite different and the experience is different. And I had this chance to experience traveling and moving around within the country and abroad, both when I was very, very young, when I was a kid, and also when I was student and postgraduate student. Actually traveling or moving within the country during my childhood, it had a very, I would say, important influence on my probably personality and you know, my way of thinking, knowing people, respecting different people with different, you know, ethnicity, different languages, and all these things.
Yeah, definitely. I think traveling is one of the most effective ways to kind of broaden your perspective and to get a global idea about the world, because a lot of time, especially I think in this time, there's so many like stereotypes about different cultures and countries, and unless and until you go to that place and explore it, you know, firsthand, you don't really realize how things can be different on the media versus when you experience it yourself and being in that place. So how would you describe you as a kid?
Yeah, as a kid, as I said, we moved to, in Azerbaijan, all people there are speaking Azeri Turkish. If you come to Iran and Azerbaijan, if you go to Bazaar, if you go to a street, and nobody speaks Persian.
Right.
And only the official language of the country is Persian. In university or in the, you know, administration departments, people they speak Persian or they write Persian. But within the community, within the people, all people they speak Turkish and Azeri Turkish. When I was kid, as I said, we moved to a Persian talking province of Iran. At that time I was about 5 years old, approximately, and I was not able to speak Persian. Because of that, when I was going out to play with children, I had this problem with communications and making contact with the children of my age. So for a while, for a few months, I had this problem with going outside, playing with other kids. But little by little, I managed to learn the language. And I remember when I was in my first year of the education, I was first year in primary school. At the beginning, 2-3 months of the beginning of the school, still I had problem with language. But after that, quickly I managed to learn Persian language, and so yeah.
So you did not study Persian in school?
Yeah, we studied Persian in school, but I started with a non-Persian speaking kid in school.
Right.
Probably because of that experience or the personality, I was calm and quiet kid, not very naughty. Yeah, it was my child.
And what were your feelings during that time? Because as a child, like, you moved a lot and you had a little bit problems, language barriers with, in different communities. And did you had any of feelings like kind of negativity towards your father's job, like while you are moving? Because as a kid, it was a little bit difficult.
Yeah,
Did you feel something like that?
Actually, I was feeling isolated when I moved from hometown. As I said, for a few first months, but always I was proud of my father's job. I was liking the way he was dressing, all this, army clothes, this colonel clothes and all these things. No, I was always proud of my father's job.
Did you?
Because people, they were respecting him, and yeah.
And did you feel like in future you would go like as a military person? Have you had those
No,
feelings?
never.
Oh.
No.
I don't know how is it in Iran, but in Pakistan, if you are in army, you are like the most respected person, in the country. And being, from a family who, any of the members are in the army, you get a lot of facilities as well as a lot of respect. And I think that's why a lot of people in Pakistan wanted to go to army. How is that in Iran when it comes to army there?
Yeah, you can look at it when my father was an officer in army, before the revolution and after the revolution. Before the revolution, it was sort of, respect for people being in army. But later on, I think it's not the case anymore. I mean, a person working in army or working in other sectors or other jobs, they are equally respected or they are equally treated by people. So there is no difference.
And how was it living in two different periods, before the revolution and after?
I cannot exactly answer this question because when revolution happened, I was about 12 or 13 years old. So I hadn't that type of independent living experience because I was living with my family, and I cannot tell about the difference from this point of view. But there is a difference, or there was a difference apparently, obviously, because the situation was quite different during the Shah era and after the revolution.
Okay, yeah. Basically, as a kid, you don't mostly see the differences when something changes, but
especially when you are dependent on your
parents and you live. Yes.
But did it somehow change how in school people usually talk about what happened in the country and everything? Did it actually impact that school routine or the education?
Again, because revolution, it was a sudden thing happened, but changing the educational system and also the way actually people, they were going and doing their ordinary jobs, studies and all these things, it happened very gradually. Okay. So it was not a sudden impact, you can feel it. Because of this gradual and continuous changes, no, I cannot say that there was impact on the way actually I was feeling in the school before revolution or after revolution.
Okay. And so, we did a little bit of research before we started the podcast and recording it, and we found like about your hobbies, like you like cooking, calligraphy, and different stuff. Can you tell us, please, about your hobbies and how did you develop them?
Yeah. I have several hobbies, and actually when I'm free, which nowadays is very rare, and it's difficult to find free time, I like music very much. I like classic music, and also I like Iranian traditional music. I listen to music. I like jogging, walking, and hiking. Again, being here, I hadn't enough time to do exercise. Apart from that, sometimes I do painting. It's only black and white painting with pencil, and calligraphy. I got interested in calligraphy when I was very young. Again, this is because of the traditional music and the very rich literature of Persian language. So I started with writing some of the good pieces of the very big Iranian thinkers using the calligraphy technique. And I am not perfect in calligraphy, but I do it. And even in my office, when working all the day, at the evening when I'm tired, I try to do a few calligraphy exercises.
Like an art therapy for you.
Yeah, it's relaxing for me.
So we can definitely say where like Moazzen is getting all these artistic skills from.
Yes.
Maybe, yeah.
When and how did you find like your, I would say, passion to calligraphy? Like when you were a child, maybe you saw anything in street or at home or something like that. How did you find this passion?
Yeah, actually, my father gave me a book of Khayyam with very nice calligraphy, and I was amazed when I was about 14 years old. And then I was amazed of this very beautiful writing using calligraphy, and the relation of this very nice calligraphy with the meanings of the writing. And from that time, I was mimicking the writings in that book. But later on, I myself tried to buy some books on how to do calligraphy, the Persian calligraphy. And I hadn't chance to take classes on this or any training on this, but I did it by myself, just looking at these books and trying and exercise. So that book of Khayyam actually was the inspiration for me to learn and to write.
Yeah, sometimes like as a child you find passion or hobby to something when like your father or your mother or someone else from your family help you. Because personally I really like learning about countries and geography. And so how did I find that? My uncle is during my childhood gave me a map of the world, so with countries, and I started looking at it, and I didn't realize that it will be my hobby in future. And this how sometimes like your hobby, not naturally but with the help of someone.
Definitely, I think the upbringing kind of influences you for sure. And have you thought about like pursuing arts as a academic passion? Because like you are into music, you're into calligraphy, and also we heard you're also into poetry. So it's very like all the aspects of art are in there.
Yeah. No, and this is again something to do with the culture and the time when I was, sort of deciding for my future and what I'm going to study. At that time, mainly fathers and mothers, they wanted their children to be either doctor or engineer. And art was not actually considered at that time as a profession or as an academic career. And I would say that only a few people, they were going to study art in high schools or in universities.
Right.
And because of that, and also I was more interested in science. So no, I never thought of art as a, sort of academic studies for my future. But as I
Right.
said, as a hobby, yeah,
Yeah.
I had
And
it
I-
and I still.
Right. And I wonder if that kind of notion is changing now.
This
in
of
Iran.
course, yeah. No. Nowadays, many people they know that in humanities and art, there are lots of opportunity for their children. They
Right.
can grow and they can do their education, they can find jobs, and they can express themselves.
Right.
So the number of the art schools in Iran is increased dramatically now. And even in our families, I can say from nephews, from children of my sisters, and other actually relatives we have, I can say many of them now they are interested in art. Kids they are going to art schools
Yeah.
and they are studying art and actually looking at as a future career and activity.
Yeah. I think a lot of young people also are, like who have this artistic skills, are using their skill to advocate for a lot of things. We're seeing a lot of young people are, have these Instagram accounts where they actually advocate for different causes and stuff. And I think this is like a wonderful. They're making a career out of it, not like by attending a very conventional or education system or university, but just as a freelancer too. We also found that you are very into cooking and you like food, but I was surprised to know that you sometimes even skip the dinner. So, what is the story?
Yeah, I like cooking and usually weekends either I cook myself or I help my wife. Sometimes I do very crazy things, mixing many things together and exploring new dishes. Sometimes they are good, sometimes they are not. But I can cook some Iranian dishes. I am very good in cooking Indian dishes, especially curry.
Oh.
So in our, family, responsibility of cooking curry is actually on my shoulders.
Okay.
And whenever we have time, I have time actually. Weekends, I do this for my family. Yeah, I like it.
So you like spicy food?
I like spicy very much.
Okay. And how is the cuisine in Iran? Is it spicy? What kind of food is very typical
No,
to the
in
culture?
Iran we don't have. We use spices, but not that much used in Pakistan or India. The foods are not that spicy.
Right.
In Iran, even if compared with the foods we have in Tajikistan, they are much less spicy because in Iran, people they like the flavor and the taste of the materials within the food themselves,
Right.
not adding extra thing.
And does the food, like the cuisine, change around Iran, like different places? For example, south from north or west
Yeah.
from east. Does it change the cuisine?
Yes, of course. As you may know, and I'm sure you know, because you are interested in geography and you had that map of the world from
It's your
your
exam
cousin.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Iran, we have 4 seasons at the same time. And we have very different climatology and also different sources for food. We have mountainous areas, which I'm coming from, and the foods are mainly based on bread and meat, which is red meat, mainly lamb or beef. In southern Iran, they use fish a lot, and shrimp, and crabs. In northern Iran, they actually use fish again, but the fish is different from open ocean fish. In different parts of Iran, there are different cuisines, and yeah, they are actually specific for that area. The way they prepare, the way they serve, the way they decorate the
Everything
food,
is
yeah.
different. Okay, and what is your favorite food and what is your favorite cuisine? Not only in Iran, though, but
Yeah.
overall.
As I said, I don't eat that much, but I like to eat different variety of foods, and I would say that I like everything. There is nothing that I can say I don't like this food. But in Iran, I like mainly a food that we call it dizi. It's sort of shorba we have here.
Right.
And I like Arabian foods as well. And as I said, spicy foods from India and Pakistan. Yeah.
Shahnaz, what is your favorite food?
Oh, that's a tough question. I love food. I love spicy food. I love Pakistani food. I would definitely say karai. We have, it's like usually you can make it with chicken or like mutton, and they kind of...
Similar to biryani? Or?
No. There's no rice in karai. In biryani you have rice. And then they put a lot of spices, and it's usually they eat it with the naan. And it's great, yeah.
Interesting.
I think traveling, like when you travel, a lot of people when they travel, they like to explore the cuisine of that culture. And since you've been to like so many countries and you have the experience of trying different cuisines, and have you ever, like when you were traveling, let's say when you were young or when you returned for your education, have you kind of like homesick or wanted to have your own like Iranian food? And were you able to find the Iranian restaurants back then in those countries?
Yeah, Iranian restaurants you can find everywhere. Some of the countries I've been to, like I was in Morocco, and I liked food a lot. Because of that, I was not looking for an Iranian food, because I like the Moroccan food and Arabian food very much. And also when I'm in Turkey or in other countries, usually I like the food of that region, of that country, so there is no need to search for Iranian restaurants. But I went to China once.
Oh, interesting.
For a scientific trip. I was invited as a keynote speaker for a conference, and we went to a city, large city called Xining in northern China, close to Tibet. It was my first actually trip to China. We had 3 days of conference, and then we had about 15 days of field excursion in different parts of the Xining mountains, which was wonderful in terms of the nature, seeing some places that are very new to you, and also in terms of geology. First 2 days, I was not sure that I liked this Chinese food or not, and I was sort of very cautious about what I am eating. But after 3 days, I found that it is not wise to ask from these chefs and waiters, what are the ingredients in this one? What are the ingredients in other?
Right.
Because we had a problem in communication. They couldn't explain properly in English what are the ingredients. So I was trying to eat only those dishes which are made from veggies. But after 3 days, I get used to this Chinese food. And after 1 week, I really started to like the Chinese food. So this few days in China, first few days, it was a bit difficult in terms of food, but after that it was okay.
Yeah. Did they eat a lot of soups and noodles and rice?
Yeah,
right?
noodles. Sometimes they eat something that you really don't know what this dish is made from, and that's the main problem.
Yeah, and you don't want to take the risk.
Or you don't ask and you just eat.
Right.
You just eat veggies and that's fine.
So growing up in Iran, so we know that the society, I might be like generalizing it, but it's a bit of a conservative society, right? And so how come that growing up in a very conservative society, you're very like open-minded and, you know, accepting towards other cultures? What influenced that personality?
Iranian society is conservative, but probably not that conservative. Especially nowadays, it's a very open, westernized, modernized society. But at that time when I was a kid, I think it had its own, advantages being in a sort of conservative society. In terms of respecting elderly people, in terms of respecting some of the values in the community, in terms of getting good sort of education and guidance and advice from your parents, from your grandparents, they were all advantages for this sort of society that probably we don't see that much nowadays in this changed societies. But we cannot say that Iranian society is very conservative compared to other societies in Middle East or in Asia. Even from beginning after the revolution, Iranian society is not that conservative.
Right.
Probably the government wants to show the society is conservative, but it is not. So there are many freedom among people, children, young generation. They are doing what they like and they are not questioned about all these things. So, but when I was a kid, it was more conservative. And as I said, because all society was like that,
Right.
You are not feeling that you are treating in a wrong way. So it was a norm of the
Right.
society. So it was how I feeling about the society.
Right.
I grew up.
I think you mentioned a very important point here that sometimes even if something is wrong, but it's so much normalized in the society that we start to think that, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. And when we talk about the freedom, I mean, if I take example of Pakistan, there's still a lot of barriers or obstacles for women to pursue the education or careers they want. And in terms of that, do women have like equal rights for education or for different jobs in Iran?
Yes, of course. There is no restriction for women to educate to the highest level, possible highest level of education in Iran. In terms of career, there is no restriction.
Right.
Because probably government wants to show that it is in Iran, freedom is there and women
Right.
they can do whatever they want. So there is no restriction. We have women they are working in mining sectors in Iran, which is one of the
Wow.
toughest works. We have women, they are lorry drivers, bus drivers, not within the cities, driving from one province to another province.
Right.
We have some pilots, and most of the doctors, they are women. And also, as I said, they are working in many different sectors and different.
Iran,
Right.
before the revolution, it was, just in my personal opinion, one of the most modern
Yeah.
countries within Asia, I mean. And I think, like, when we watched like the movies from Iran back then and the videos that I have watched, it was freedom for like all people, all were free, and I think this mindset is still on
Exactly, yeah.
in people because the system could change, but the mindset for the people, it's like ideology for them to be free.
Right. Yep. Teacher, we have something for you, and we kind of wanted to know the story behind it. So we have the first picture. This is, I guess,
Wow,
you with
very
your
fun.
father. We have good, people to research about. So when was this picture taken, and what exactly is the story behind it, if you don't mind telling us?
Yes, I exactly remember.
And this is such a cute picture.
Thank you. First of all, as you can see, I had glasses,
Yeah.
yellow
Yes.
glasses, and still I use glasses. Yeah, this is actually a picnic, or I would say this is a travel to northern Iran.
Oh.
Northern Iran is very green
Mhm.
and very rainy, and it's a special part. Many people in Iran, for vacation, they travel to northern Iran.
Mhm.
This is a photo taken in northern Iran when we were to a sort of holiday in northern Iran, and it's me and my father. Actually, this is a larger a photo with
Uh-huh.
my sisters and my mother as well. But
Uh-huh.
here you can see only me and my father. Yeah, I was in year 4 of my education at that time. But it was summertime, so
Uh-huh.
I finished the 4th grade, and that year fall I started the 5th grade in school. I was between 11 and 12.
Wow. So were you more attached to your father or your mother?
Both of them. I was friends with both of them actually.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you hear that boys are more towards mother and girls towards father, but
Yeah.
for me it was not the case. I was equally I was close to both of them.
Yeah.
I
I
had
think
very
usually.
good time with my father.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think usually sons are, usually mother's favorite
Yes.
kids. I don't know how is it in Iran, but in South Asia, in Pakistan and India, I mean that's the case. And daughters are more attached with their
Yeah, this is the
fathers.
case, but for me, probably it was an
It was
unusual
balanced,
case
like-
that
It
was a
was-
sort of balance. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And we have another picture of you with your sisters, I guess.
Oh, this one.
And
Yeah.
so what is the story behind this one?
Yeah, I'm the eldest, actually, child in our family,
Uh-huh.
and after me, here you can see 3 sisters of mine, and also I had 2 brothers. One unfortunately passed away. Now I have 1 brother,
Mhm.
all younger than me. So I had my aunt's husband.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very kind person,
Right.
and he liked us very much, and we liked him very much.
Mm-hmm.
And during the weekends, he was taking us to the park. And one day, after playing in park, he took us to this photo studio, and this is photo we took in that studio. Yeah, these are my 3 sisters.
I was going to ask if you are the only son, you probably would be the favorite kid of your parents.
Yeah, for many years I was the only son. After that, as I said, I had 2 brothers, much
Right.
younger than all of
So
us.
he's not in this picture.
No, they are not in this picture. They actually came to this world many years later.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we have 2 more pictures, Shainaz. Can you show the professor? And let's find out the story behind these photos.
Well, I think everybody will know the story behind it already.
Yeah, this is one of the very important and interesting moments in UCA when our students they graduate.
It was the first convocation.
This was the first convocation in Horuk campus, and after many years, 4 years, 5 years, I was here for 2 years that time,
Mm-hmm.
seeing that all senior students they are graduating, and they are looking for their future in terms of career and postgraduate education. And whenever I wear this cloth, it has a very special feeling.
Right.
The feeling of successfulness,
Uh-huh.
having all these students who are graduating. One of the good moments of my life.
And the last picture.
Oh. Okay, yeah, this is a nice picture. Yeah, we had a visit to Hisar last summer, and this is Hisar in Tajikistan, close to Dushanbe.
Mm-hmm.
And I like culture of Tajik people, all
Mhm.
Central Asian countries, especially Tajikistan, which is very close to Iranian culture, language.
Right.
So I tried this clothes, traditional Tajik clothes on. It's
So what is this place?
a Hisar.
Ah, okay.
It's
So
like
Hisar,
old castle.
old castle,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ah,
close
okay.
to Dushanbe. The place is called Hisar.
Uh-huh. Well, that's such a wonderful picture. All right. So now moving to the professional life and your journey of pursuing your academic dreams and passions. Professor, according to our research, you have studied geology in your bachelor's degree and then in your master's degree and then also in your PhD. And that means that you knew from the very beginning that this is the subject you're passionate about and you wanted to kind of pursue a career out of it. So what really made you realize that geology is the subject that you wanted to study and, you know, have a profession in that?
As I said, me and my father, we were good friends. My father, he was taking me to fishing, to hiking during the weekends. We were 2 of us or with family. And at that time we were living in Hamadan. Hamadan area is very similar to Horok in terms of geology, in terms of the rock types. There are many different metamorphic rocks with very beautiful minerals like garnets, biotites, shiny flakes of mica. At that time I didn't know what type of minerals are these, what the story behind all these minerals. But when we were going for hiking or when we were going for picnic or fishing, always I was amazed with all these minerals in the rocks without knowing what they are. And even I had my small rock collections at home. And then during the high school we had a very good geology teacher, very good geology teacher. His name was Mr. Fadai. And one of the main reasons I got interested in geology was the way he was teaching geology, taking us again to field work, showing the nature to us. When I was going to start my studies in university for bachelor degree, I was thinking to choose between biology and geology. But because I was more, into geology, not professionally, not knowing the rocks, just liking them, so I decided to study geology. That's why I consider geology as a bachelor degree. And after that, when I was in university, I found it's even more fascinating than I was thinking, and I decided to continue my studies towards master degree and then PhD.
Where did you go to university?
For bachelor degree, I went to University of Tabriz. University of Tabriz is second oldest university in Iran and one of the largest among 10 large universities in Iran. And it's always ranking between first 800 universities worldwide. So it's a good university. And I chose this university because it was very close to our hometown, only 1 hour driving from hometown to the university. So I studied in Tabriz University my bachelor degree, and after that I went to another province in southern Iran, which is called Kerman province, and I studied master degree in Kerman University. Kerman University was very good, one of the universities established master degree at that time in the country. So it was one of few universities they were offering bachelor degree in petrology, the subject I was interested in. And also because this university is located in Kerman city, and Kerman city is in a province with lots of very large world-ranking mines, like copper mine, gold mine and other mines, and iron. So the university was mainly supported by this mining sector, so the university was very good, the program, the curriculum. I studied bachelor degree in, master degree in Kerman University. And after that, I attended an exam for scholarship from the Iranian government. I remember there were about 145 participants in this exam, and they were sending only 4 students for PhD degree abroad for geology. And I was one of those 4 students successful in this exam. And I had admission from different universities in Australia, in US, in Denmark, in Finland, and in UK. And then looking at the programs and the professors, I decided to go to Manchester University. So I did my PhD in Manchester University in England.
Wow. So, so you have studied in Iran and as well as in the UK. What are some of the key differences that you found in their education systems?
Yeah, the main difference was I was a research student in Manchester University. So it means that you don't need to attend classes.
Right.
You just choose the topic you are going to work on it and your research topic, and you do it. And you have regular meeting with your supervisor, and he checks your progress, and then you work in a lab, you go to the field, you do your analysis, you write about them, you analyze your data. But in Iran we don't have this type of education, which is research-based education. In Iran you need to have certain numbers of credit points, studying hard. So in Iran, it was much harder for me to study for bachelor and master degree compared to UK. In UK, although it was difficult because you had to write a PhD thesis acceptable for jury and referees, but it was not that hard. In Iran, you need, I think it's the same in Pakistan or India or other countries in Asia, that when you go to school or when you go to university, you need to memorize lots of things. You need to learn many different things. During the bachelor degree, we had physics, 2 physics courses. We had 3 chemistry courses.
Right.
We had 2 math courses, and they were very high, level math and physics and chemistry and biology and all of these things.
Right.
So yeah,
And
the difference. The difference is actually, but when looking at the result, you see that although it seems that in UK you are more relaxed in terms of studying these courses, but at the end the result is better in UK. Why? Because students are more focused in the field they are studying, so they don't need to learn everything.
Yes.
But what they learn it deeply. But in Iran, you need to learn everything, but
without
probably
practice.
Shallow and not very.
And was it like mostly only learning the stuff but not practicing them in Iran? I mean, for
No, in
example,
Iran we had
going
lots
field
of
trips or
no, in Iran,
doing
in Iran we
research.
had lots of practices.
Oh.
So we during the bachelor degree we had many field trips, lots of lab talks for chemistry, for mineralogy, for paleontology, for sedimentology, for all these courses we had lots of practical courses. So there was no problem with the practice part of the courses. The huge amount of those things you need to learn and memorize, and different things. In UK, during the bachelor degree for earth or geology or earth sciences, from the beginning you decide, are you more interested in chemical parts of the earth sciences or physical aspects of the earth sciences or biological aspects of the earth sciences? If you are more interested in biological aspects of the earth sciences, you study biology, you study different types of fossils
Yes.
and all these things. You don't need to learn geophysics, you don't need to learn volcanoes.
Right.
But in Iran, you have to learn all these things.
Oh wow.
So probably this is the main
And
difference.
how do you see, just in your opinion, the difference with UCA like this, your experience in UK, in Iran, and in UCA? What do you think? UCA is more towards the system that you had in Iran, or it's more close to the Western?
In UCA, our university here is a liberal art university, so it is not, probably right to compare it with university in Iran I was going or university in UK, because those actually the education I had in Iran and in UK, they were not liberal art universities. In liberal art university in UCA, we try to have something in between. So students, they have enough knowledge of their field, so they need to learn, they need sometimes to memorize, they need to practice. And also, we like to have a research-based education here in UC. So students, they need to have research activities, projects, assignments. So I would say that this is something in between of the educational system in Iran and UK, which is very good. The only problem is that we are a very new university. We try to establish more research activities for our students, and then, as I said, we will have both aspects of learning basic knowledge for the major and also doing research.
Right. I think you mentioned something that is very important about kind of making the students to learn things by heart. I believe that it's kind of a good thing because right now, like my experience in UCA, if I compare it with my high school in Pakistan, we study a lot of things by heart and we study things in detail too.
Yep.
And which is very effective because even to have the conceptual understanding of things, you need to know the knowledge, right? You need to have the basic understanding of that thing. And I think after coming to UC, we're so relaxed because here the education system is we're a bit relaxing, and we mostly try to focus on the research instead of learning things by heart. And that's why I think a lot of students, other students as well, are very relaxing. And that is something I think the education, the notion of education in today's world is changing because we are kind of giving the lead to the students to study however they want. So it's on the students to do it. And that's the same system we have here in UCA too, but that's making the students more relaxing. What do you think? Is it going to be effective in the student's life, or is this something that UCA might consider to change it and to make it more, stricter in the future?
Yeah, this is a very interesting and very fundamental question. As I said, the way of people they are getting education, especially for the high school education and also the bachelor degree, is changing. Considering this pandemic and online teaching and all these new methods of teaching, you can see that the method of education is changing. But even in our committees or meetings in the university, I emphasize on this point that we have 3 different levels of university education. One is bachelor degree, another one is master degree, and the other one is PhD. In bachelor degree, although we like to engage our students in research, but we know that bachelor degree is the time for our students to learn the basic things about their major. And for that, we need to have conventional classes. We need to have sort of conventional method of education.
Right.
So it cannot be only based on research or, as you said, probably relaxing mode of education. When you learn the basics of the major you are studying for, then during the master degree, you will start researching. But even during the master degree, we don't expect a master student to discover something new. What the educational system accepts from a master degree student is that student practices the way of research. So student will practice how to find the question, how to analyze the question, how to find ways of dealing with this question, how to implement these methods, and how to get the result. Even if there is no result, no problem. As I said, during the master degree, we are not looking for a novel thing, for something which is not discovered before. But during the PhD degree, PhD student is expected to discover something new. Even a very small thing, but it's something new that can offer to the scientific society. So, considering these differences between bachelor and master and PhD degree, because I'm probably coming from a conventional background of education. I was teaching for 29 years, now 30 years, more than 30 years. So I know that if you don't get the right education for bachelor degree, if you don't know the basics of your science, if you go even for a research-based study for your master degree, you will have problem. If you don't know all those very fundamental things related to your bachelor degree education. So what we are going to do in UCA, we are going to have our education based on research. And what that means? It means that we are not forgetting about those fundamental courses we are offering to students. But those courses, they are better to come from research experience of the instructors, of the professors.
Right.
Why? Because if I teach something that I have experienced myself before, I have found it myself before, it is much effective to teach it to students rather than copying some pages from a textbook or
Right.
bringing a paper from somebody else. So they are good, but it will be more effective if somebody teaches something that he has done it in his or her research.
Right.
He knows all details about the procedures, about the methods, about the results, and that's why actually we are thinking about research-based education here.
But I wonder to what extent that is being implemented, because there are very few students who are, doing the research, or they are somehow contributing to the research projects that the professors or the instructors are leading.
Probably not much implemented, and there's reason for that. I think the main reason is that when you do a research, you publish your research in a high-ranking journal.
Right.
This is actually how we do research as instructors and teachers and professors in the university. These researchers are, I would say, in high level. Some of them, they are understandable for bachelor degree students. Some of them, they are not. So you cannot bring all your research outputs or research findings to the classroom.
Right.
For some of the research, you can talk about the methods, about the planning for the research, but probably not about the main results or main analysis of the data, because as I said, sometimes they are much higher than the level of a bachelor degree class. So probably this is the main reason that you don't see our colleagues bringing their research into the class. But what I mean, I mean that when you have a course in, say for example, geochemistry, I'm bringing an example from my course. So when you are talking about geochemistry in the class, if I have done something on geochemical topic, say for example exploration of gold or geochemical characteristics or feature of some igneous rocks from a part of the world, when I am teaching that part of geochemistry, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And I know that how I should teach that students, they learn it properly. In future, they can do similar research works. Instead of just reading a chapter of a textbook, memorizing it, and coming to the class the following day and
Right.
giving as lecture to students. So this is the difference between the research-based teaching and this conventional.
Yes, and personally, for me as a student, so maybe for all of us, when the class is more engaged with the questions,
Right.
with the experiments or showing something, is more interesting, and you find more passion to that to study, but rather than just copying from textbook and looking at the textbook on PowerPoint presentation or
Yeah.
something like that.
Definitely. I mean, I would love to mention the point here that, Professor, your classes usually, since you're teaching us geochemistry now, I think your class is one of the very few classes that we are excited to go to the class, and it's engaging, and
Yes.
it's kind of like thought-provoking. You kind of start questioning, whatever you're learning in the class. And I think the reason why that's the case is because you are so specialized in your subject, and you know in very detail about whatever concepts you're covering in the class. And I think that is wonderful, and that's how the students start like questioning and developing interest in different subjects and start making their choices about their career in the future.
Yep.
I think we jumped into another topic, but I want to go back to your professional life. So what really fascinates you about rocks?
Very shortly, I can say that the history of Earth can be recorded in the rocks. And when you are looking at the rocks, minerals in the rocks, the textures and structures in the rocks, then chemistry of the rocks, chemistry of the minerals in the rocks, what you do, you reveal this history of the rock.
Right.
From very, very old times to the time that this rock finally emplaced in the earth crust. So this is something that fascinates me, looking at something that you can read the past, very old past from them.
Right.
But as you said, we have many different types of rocks in the nature.
Mm-hmm.
We have igneous rocks, different types of igneous rocks. We have volcanic rocks, we have plutonic rocks, we have deep abyssal rocks, we have metamorphic rocks, we have different types of sedimentary rocks. And for each of them we have specialities, for each of them we have people they are working on these rocks. So for one person it is not possible to know all about all this type of rocks. So I am sort of specialized, if I can say that, in metamorphic rocks and some igneous rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So say for example in volcanic rocks I have very small knowledge, meager knowledge about volcanic rocks. So there are people that they spend 40 years, 50 years, 60 years working only on volcanic rocks. So it's like other branches of the science. So you cannot be expert in all aspects of that science.
Right.
Petrology is the science of study of the rocks, but you cannot be petrologist for sedimentary, metamorphic, igneous rocks, all of them.
Right.
You just choose one of these branches and then you can study these rocks.
Mhm.
And why did you choose metamorphic? Like mostly.
Yeah, this is again going actually during my bachelor degree. When I was studying different types of rocks as courses, we had 2 courses for igneous rocks, 2 for sedimentary, and 2 courses for metamorphic rocks. As I said, fascinating thing for me is discovering or reading this history of the earth using the rocks. And I found that during the bachelor degree, by help from my professors, I found that metamorphic rocks, they have very specific potential in this term, in reading the history of earth. So I'm not going to talk, geology language here or using the technical words, but metamorphic rocks are very interesting in terms of studying, finding out about the part of the crust and all events this part of crust experienced in many, many years. So it was very interesting for me, and that's the main reason I get interested in metamorphic rocks, and I did my master degree, PhD, even 1 year postdoc studies on metamorphic rocks.
And what is the most interesting thing you find about the history of Earth through like the rocks? It could be, I know there is a lot, but one that was most unusual or interesting personally for you.
Yeah, one of the most interesting aspects of metamorphic rocks is pressure and temperature condition of formation of these rocks, and studying these rocks using thermodynamic methods. Some of the rocks, they are ordinary rocks. You can find these rocks almost everywhere. In all mountain belts, there are lots and lots of these rocks. But there are some very specific rocks. They are rare, they are unusual. They form at very extreme pressure temperature condition, very high pressure, very high temperature. They are called eclogite rocks. And I was lucky to find this eclogitic rocks in one place in Iran, in northern Iran. It was a subject of PhD thesis of one of my students, who is an associate professor now in one of the universities. It was very interesting for us to find these rocks, to study their pressure, temperature, thermodynamic condition of formation, to find out that these rocks are formed at very, very high pressure and temperature. Then thinking about that environment that produced this high pressure and temperature. This was one of the good, sort of findings we had. Always we are working as teams in petrology and science. So we found this very interesting.
I think that's wonderful, like how much you're passionate about your subject. In the labs we have seen you like remembering the names of each of the rocks and minerals we have and everything. So do you have a strategy how you memorized all those names? Because I mean you can literally look at a rock and tell what kind of minerals it has inside. So how?
Yeah, is it just came from experience?
Yeah.
It comes from practice. When you practice it a lot, then you memorize it. And also, yeah, when I was younger, when I was a student, I was using some, as I said, methods to memorize the names of the minerals. Even for a periodic table, memorizing the name of the REEs, memorizing the name of the transitional metals. Yeah, at that time, I remember that I had sort of strategy to put the first letter of the names of the minerals or rocks and making a meaningless word for myself and repeating it, even sometimes singing it as a song, and it was sort of way to remember the names of the different geological eras, rock names, mineral names, elements names, and all these things.
That reminds me of my Russian classes. Because it's such a difficult language. When we were preparing for the exams, we would not remember the word, so we kind of come up with a stupid story behind it. And that really helps to remember things, So I think it's a wonderful strategy. And so you have worked in Iran, as we were researching about you, you have worked in one of the mining companies as a consultant, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, actually I worked as consultant for 6-7 mining companies in Iran. Mm-hmm. In Iran, we had this office of relation between industry and university. And the aim is to bring industry and university close to each other, to see how industry can benefit from university and university can benefit from industry. So in realm of this collaboration, I was involved in consulting with 5 or 6 different companies in Iran. And one of the longest collaboration I had was with one of the second largest copper mine in Iran, consulting them in terms of geochemical studies, how they can analyze their samples for copper or molybdenum, for gold, and also looking for suitable places in the field for those areas with anomaly, with high concentration of copper. Another collaborations was with companies working on gold exploration. So I was consulting them in terms of geochemical methods for gold exploration. They were either Iranian companies or they were joint companies between Iran, Australia, and mainly China, several companies.
Right. So about the collaboration, is it are you talking about the University of Kerman, or usually in Iran where whatever, like if the university offers a relevant course, they have collaboration with the relevant industry?
Actually, nothing doing with the course. Teaching the course, going to the class is something. Mm-hmm. But if you have this expertise that you can help industry in your country,
Right.
there is, as I said, there is an office that will put you in contact with people in industry or in the mining, and then you sign a contract and you provide consultancy or scientific help to this, either companies, factories, or mining sectors. I did it when I was professor at University of Tabriz. So I had my own research work, I had my teaching, and also I was involved in some extra activities helping these companies, these mining companies. They were mainly field works during the weekends or during the summertime. And also it was studying the documents, looking at the data, geochemical data they have, analyzing this data, helping them, as I said, to find good places for exploration, for mining, for extraction.
Right. And how big is the mining sector in Iran?
It's very big. It's very big because Iran is very rich in different mineral deposits and ore deposits. Different varieties of minerals, including iron, gold, copper, zinc, lead, coal, all these things. And now, because private sector, they can own mines, so it is sort of very popular among companies, private sectors, and also it's popular among geology and earth science students. Sometimes the students, they make groups of 4, 5, they make their own company, and they go to field exploring for.
We can consider Iran for
This is
jobs.
something that we can do here.
And
Right.
now you're in Tajikistan, and do you have plans to work back again in Iran after UCA?
If you see will allow.
Yes.
Or you
Actually,
just want to travel?
Still I am in contact with the university in Iran. Not one university, but several universities in Iran. I am co-supervisor of, at the moment, 5 PhD students in Iran. And they write, they work, and they send me their progress. I look at the findings. I help them in writing their PhD thesis and also writing the scientific papers. Also, I help our department in the curriculum development in Iran in Tabriz University. Sometimes when I'm in Iran, I deliver some talks for students and faculty members. I am a member of the Academy of Science of Islamic Republic of Iran. And we have monthly meetings for Academy of Science. I'm a member of the geology branch of the Academy of Science. So there are 8 people from Iran. And we look at the geology, earth sciences in Iran, and planning for the future, helping administrative people in Iran, helping the Ministry of Education of Iran and universities to plan for future of the earth sciences in Iran. So yeah, I am in continuous contact. I'm still working with them, but this is about probably 10, 15, 20% maximum of my academic activity. Rest of it is with UCL.
So, Professor, I want to know, like, what is the scope of geology and how is it changing over the years? Because I think now the entire world is going towards sustainability, right? People are trying, a lot of countries are trying to avoid or get rid of mining and all these sectors that are huge contributors of carbon emissions and everything. How the scope of geology has changed over the years, and what kind of fields are there for the students to pursue in the future? Because I think half of the students in UCA are pursuing earth and environmental science, and I think a lot of them don't even know, if they're interested in geology, what kind of jobs they can, pursue in the future.
Are you talking about earth and environmental sciences or specifically about geology? If talking about geology, my answer will be something earth and environmental science in general. So I answer your question in a different way. In terms of geology, geology is a classic science and is an old science. There are some very sort of classic branches of geology. which are still ongoing in some departments in some universities in the world, but they are not attracting more attention anymore nowadays. Say, for example, studying the fossils, paleontology. These are something that I would say most of the things are already discovered, and there are only a few people that they are working on this, and even less students they are interested in continuing their studies in paleontology, studying fossils, these things. But as you know, all industrial needs for countries, it doesn't matter if it is developing country or developed country, it comes from Earth. And in this regard, geology will not fade, I would say, among the other sciences in the universities. Even it's getting stronger and stronger, especially looking for new resources, looking for new materials. As you know, in Europe, they are saying that we are not going to produce carbon fuel cars in, I don't know, 20 years, 25 years, or even sooner. They are concentrating on electric cars. But where these materials for making an electric car comes from? Where the materials come for these batteries? Where this lithium, cadmium, all these materials needed for making capable batteries for driving, say for example, for 100 kilometers, where they are coming from? They come from Earth. And we need to look at new resources. Probably once iron was most important, now copper and lithium and cadmium and nickel, these are more important. So geology, both as a career and as an academic activity and university program, it will continue. It is strengthening, and also, as I said, new branches, new fields, they are emerging. And mining sector, it's not like that countries will get rid of mining. As I said, they need mining, and some of these materials, they are really strategic materials for different countries. Those countries like China, India now, they are going to be superpowers of the future world. They are relying on the mining sectors, on the steel, on the copper and other type of materials they are discovering they have, either in their own countries or in collaboration with other companies in other countries. You may know that there are many countries now that are working in Africa, Chinese countries that are working in Africa, looking for different types of materials. In Central Asia, again, they are working in different parts of Central Asia for different metals, different materials needed for future industry. So geology playing its important role in our future world. But as you said, Shanaz, it's sort of changing. And from that classic geology we have, we need to concentrate more on needs and problems. The needs are for materials, and problems are all those problems with the environment, with sustainability. And these are the things that our new generation of geologists, they should think about. They should be trained to be ready to deal with all these problems and questions and opportunities in the future. So there are opportunities for careers, especially our students here. They are not only geology oriented, and they are not only environmental oriented. You are studying earth and environmental sciences. And I can see that there are lots of opportunities for you in future to find good jobs in earth science sector, in environmental protection, in finding new resources, and all these things. They are new emerging areas of activity.
Right. So it's like we also need to focus more on the policy side, and also like incorporating sustainability into geology instead of completely getting rid of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And talking about UCA, so when did you join UCA and how did you find, firstly about UCA and what kind of interested or inspired you to join the university?
I joined UCA on August 2019. I was supposed to be here at the 1st of August, but I was in Dushanbe and there was not a car. We were waiting for a car, and then my start date is 2nd of August 2019 in UCA. How I found about UCA? Before coming to UCA, I was working in Australia in Wollongong University as a research professor. And I had a friend, I was working with him, and he actually found about this UCA and this job opportunity in UCA. And he showed it to me, and Tajikistan, I thought about Tajikistan, yeah, I like Tajikistan. Again, because of this cultural and language links between Iran and Tajikistan. Coming back from Australia, it was still time to apply. I was thinking, okay, Pamir Mountains, Tajikistan, a new opportunity for work in other part of the world. I applied for the position, and I had several tough interviews and demo classes, and eventually I liked UCA, and UCA probably liked me. And that's why
students
I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here because in Iran, when I was in Tabriz University, I was teaching only to master and PhD students. No classes with bachelor's degrees. And I was missing this sort of working with younger generation. And I was missing teaching, as I said, fundamentals and basics of earth and environmental sciences. And I was seeing this opportunity of being in Pamir for new research on geology of Pamir Mountains. As you know, Pamir Mountains, they are unique in terms of geology in many ways. How these mountains they made, the mineral resources, gems of Badakhshan, and also petrology of different variety of rocks here. So all these, they were very fascinating to me. And coming to Dushanbe and coming to Horog, staying here for a while, I found out that this is a place I'd like to be, and students, I like them, so I decided to continue my work in UC.
And are you a person of like big cities or like small countryside?
I am a person of a small countryside, although I was living in a big city. Tabriz is for Iran is a big city with almost 2 million population.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah, I'm living in this big city with all these problems of the big city.
Right.
But I usually like small, calm, cozy countryside, small cities. So
And was there a transition, shifting from a big city to a small town like Horog?
Which is very relaxing for me.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, well, we're so happy that you're enjoying your time in Horog.
Thank you very much.
And definitely, I think for the ES professors and instructors, this is like a living lab for them. So they can, the Pamir Mountains, they can go out and do their research. So I think with this, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was such a pleasure talking to you and knowing your journey and experience and all that. And thank you so much for watching our podcast, and stay tuned for the new content. And
yes, thank you very much, Professor, again. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and like this episode. Thank you very much.